the Cardinal King here, inviting you back into the Cardinal Cave. And I've got another batch of AI created Yu-Gi-Oh! Alt arts. We're going to explore 10 more cards, fan favorite cards, cards that you've requested. And hopefully if you have any more requests, just put that down in the comments. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the goofy things YouTubers ask you to do. And hey, let's get on with the video. So the first card in this set is Cyber Dragon. And the artist that we decided to go with for Cyber Dragon is Yoshikazu Yasuhiko. And he did a lot of awesome posters. He's an illustrator, or animator, I guess you could say is a better description. But he did a lot of posters for the original Gundam series that were awesome. Like, these are amazing posters. If you never checked them out, look them up. They're all done in traditional media because there was no digital media back then, right? So we decided to plug that in, and these first 4 results are amazing. The, top right, top left, bottom right, they'll have a very atmospheric quality about them. The clouds are beautiful in the top left, top right, or bottom right. And yeah, all of these could have been the alt art, right? The bottom left's a little lame. Not into it. So just for kicks, we decided to go with a different prompt because we are inputting prompts into all of these, right? That's how the machine works. We put in a prompt and a reference and it spits out an image at us, right? Like I said in the last video, if you're a massive art history nerd, you're going to have an awesome time with the software. So this second render we put in the word Cyber Dragon, and I wasn't a huge fan of any of these, to be honest. So we did renders of the top left, top right, and bottom right, and the bottom right one just won out. Like, it looks awesome. It's got like this giant fin on its back. It looks kind of like Cyber Dragon. I think part of my decision was that a lot of the Cyber Dragon support cards have Cyber Dragon all messed up and he is being like fixed up by other cards, so we decided to go with that, right? Next up is our attempt at an all art for Forbidden Droplet, and the artist that we chose to input here for a reference was an artist called Gaston Bouzier, and he did a piece that is called La Princesse Salt, and that's kind of what we used to train our model on. So first we put in Forbidden Droplet as our words, and I don't think it knew what it was, but this bottom left one gave me a beautiful result, so I wanted to explore that a little more. Once it was rendered, I wanted some variations to this one, and the one on the left here is like this beautiful, like almost like Alphonse Mucha type woman, Art Nouveau. That's awesome. Maybe she's holding the Forbidden Droplet inside that little like case. But I wanted to explore a couple more variations. So for this next one, we did the same artist, right? And I like the one on the right because that one kind of implies that it's a little watery and she looks like she's like in a water temple or something. So that one kind of implies that maybe she's the Forbidden Droplet. And this next one, it's almost like a little bit more alchemic, right? So the one on the left is dropping down. We changed the prompt to a drop of wine spilling from the Holy Grail. So the one on the right I actually really liked, so I wanted a variation of that. And we got this variation, which isn't the one we went with. But for the final one, we have this image of these people, like they're all kind of like begging for this thing that's at the top of this tower that this priest is like giving them like, oh no, you can never have this. So I really like that as a Forbidden Droplet. Like I know that the story in the actual card is very like Judeo-Christian, but this thing to me is really cool, dude. It's like this king or this emperor like holding up a cup of wine, grabbing the Forbidden Droplet that no one else can have, and the person on the bottom left is like begging, is like, please, please. I love that. So here's the full image, and here is the image of the card. All right, next up we have Jinzo, and this one I didn't have a specific artist. I plugged in Jinzo and I just put in the word Jinzo. I put in manga style character design cyberpunk. Wasn't very happy with any of these. I don't think the machine knows what a Jinzo is. But I did like the top left one because the full armor looks really cool, and it looks like an armored guy with like 2 glowing eyes. And the trim on it is actually the same color as Jinzo from the card. So I thought that would give us something interesting. Just out of curiosity, I plugged it in again, just Jinzo and Cyberpunk. And I wasn't super into any of these. Again, I don't think the machine knows what a Jinzo is. So I got a full render of the top left one, and I actually really like this. Like, it looks like he is like a cyberpunk, you know, android who hates trap cards. So we had some variations on it. I was not super happy with the variations. I love the original one though. And then for the next one, we got a little bit more literal, right? So I did Cyberpunk wearing round goggles that glow red, and then we gave it like manga style. This is where we had Cyberpunk in there. And again, wasn't super happy with any of these except for the top right one, so I wanted to see a full render of that, and here's what we got. And this one's actually pretty Jinzo-ish, so this is what we went with. We just gave it a little bit of a hand in Photoshop later, but yeah, this is the full art of it, and here's the art on the card. Okay, boys and girls, next up we have Aluber, the Jester of Despia, which is one of my favorite cards. I trained the model on a painting called Stanzinski by this artist called, the Polish artist, his name is Jan Matygio. I said that in a French accent, but he's Polish, so it's not that accent, but it's a very famous painting of a jester who's like laying down and he's like done with life, right? So who better to and he's also wearing red, so who better to be our Aluber, right? So the 4 images generated here, and we did put in the prompt is actually Aluber, the Jester of Despia. I actually really like the bottom right and the top right, so we asked for more renders of that. The full render of the bottom right is awesome. This is actually the card we ended up going with. The top right is also kind of nice. I do like that he has like the red cloak going on and whatnot, so we wanted to get some more variations of these guys, and this one is a variation of the second one I showed you, and it looks horrifying. Does not sell the fact that he is, you know, Aluber. And the last one is also horrifying. He looks like a goblin and a zombie. So here is the full art again, and I like that he even has like the little red streak in his hair, right? So that ties him back in with A.A.ZEUS. And yeah, here's the full art card, and here's the art on the card. Okay, here is the one you've all been waiting for, the Dark Magician, the legendary Dark Magician. So for this one, I trained it on the artist Frank Frazetta, who is a ultra famous fantasy artist. He did a lot of like Conan. A lot of your favorite fantasy art is just like people trying to riff on Frank Frazetta. He's an amazing artist. If you don't know his work, check it out. So this is the first set that we got from this, right? And originally is actually really happy with top left because that has like the magical circle, and we did input the code, the keyword Dark Magician, so the machine did know what it was, right? Because it gave us like the circle on it, it gave us the purple color. I was really happy with the top left one, and the bottom right one looks like a, you know, looks like a bad guy magician from Conan, right? Like it did a fantastic job with the portrait. So just for kicks, we added another one, just also based on Frank Frazetta, and we used the code words Warlock with staff casting a magical, purple Warlock with staff casting a magical spell. And I love the lighting on the top left one. So we asked for some variations on the top left one of the first variations of the first set, and these were all fine. I actually blew up the top left one, and originally this is the one I was gonna go with. I love this, man. It looks like the purple helmet isn't really a helmet; it's part of his cape, and he's underneath it, and you can see like his face in like a really gnarly mask, and he's hiding the rest of everything else. Right? He's very mysterious. He's got this like dark portal and these like minion creatures behind him. Yeah, this is awesome. So we also rendered out the big face, bottom right one. And again, this looks like a Conan bad guy, which is, again, awesome. I love that, again, it gave it that texture where it looks like it's a scan from a book. So we ended up doing another set, and I actually did quite a few of these that I'm not going to show you just because of time constraints, but we ended up going with this guy. And this Dark Magician, let me tell you, looks amazing, dude. Like, this looks like he could be painted on the side of a van. You know what I mean? Like, fantasy all throughout. Yeah, and he looks menacing as hell. Like, the cloak on the back isn't really like a helmet, it's like a part of his cloak. He looks super evil. I'm very satisfied with this. So here's the full art, and here's the art on the card. Alright, next up we have the Effect Veiler, and this is another one of those modern card staples that everyone uses, right? And if you saw the last video, we did a Graceful Charity by Luca Giordano, and it's trained on the art piece called The Fall of the Rebels. We did the same thing for this one. So our first set of 4 here is with the keywords Effect Veiler. The machine did not know what that was. So for the next set, we put in Angel with blue hair wearing a white robe. And I like the top left one. I like the bottom right one and the bottom left one. So we asked it for a render of the top left. This is what we got. It looks a little too abstract for my taste, right? So we asked for a remaster of this, and the top right one, or the right one, is hilariously close to like a very religious image of the Effect Veiler. I love that one. But for whatever reason, I just didn't think that the render was going to come out right. So we ended up going with the bottom left one. And we asked for some variations on that one. These were a little too literal. So we just straight up asked it for a render of it. And there's something that I like about this being like a very creepy, like ethereal, like angel. Like, he's still recognizable as an angel, but he looks like otherworldly. And I really like that. So here's the image, and here's the image on the card. MST, an oldie but goodie. If you saw the last episode, we did a Raigeki based on the art of the artist Albert Bernstein. And again, we used that same training model on this one, and we typed in the actual mystical space typhoon. And it did a surprisingly good job. I was super into, you know, the 2 top ones. So here's a render of the top left. And again, this like beautiful landscape with a giant space tornado. And the top right, which I think this one sells that it's like mystical and a space tornado a little more because it's massive, right? Like, there are mountains here and they look like they are molehills. So here is the full version of the art. And then here is the card art. Okay, originally we were gonna do Access Code Talker, but I just, for whatever reason, kind of rolled it into A.A.ZEUS. Another kind of modern staple card people love. So I wanted to train this guy on some Soviet propaganda posters because, you know, it's like the space race and it's kind of this like, you know, the card art on A.A.ZEUS, he's kind of like this giant mecha, but he's also like a space station type deal. So we went with that, those training models of Russian propaganda posters. So the first one, we didn't really quite have anything. The top right one would make a really kick-ass access code talker. The next one we set was a little too like workers movement, so I wasn't super into that. And we went from going with the actual name of Divine Arsenal A.A.ZEUS for our prompt to going into gigantic mecha robot Soviet propaganda poster. And the top left one I thought had a lot of potential because that looks like a giant space station. So we ended up getting a variation on that. I was super into the right one because it has those stars and it looks like a propaganda piece, right? Like, if they had made that machine back in the day, like, that was the propaganda piece for it. So this is our original render, and then we asked for a remaster of it, and we got this, which does look like a giant mecha. So it has like the head there, which kind of has like a Soviet like cosmonaut deal going on there. It has like thrusters behind it, and it has like a giant pod, and that's where all the people who work at the space station are, right? And it has the 2 hands below the thrusters. Yeah, I love this. This is awesome. It's fantastic work by the machine. So yeah, here's the full art, and here's the art on the card. Celtic Guardian. We have another Frank Frazetta type deal going on here. This is the original batch. They're all very acceptable. The top left one in specific is very cool looking, and so is the bottom right one. But just for kicks and giggles, I rendered it over again. Using, this time instead of Celtic Warrior, I used Celtic Warrior with sword. I actually like the bottom left one quite a bit, but I still didn't think the machine was quite hitting it. So we did the third render, and I really like the rightmost ones because they both look like, you know, women who would, you know, be hanging out with Conan on an adventure. So I really liked, right? So we did a render of the bottom left one on the second image I showed you. And this one's very cool. It does sell the thing, you know, it sells that he's a warrior, but he doesn't look very Celtic. This next one is the render of the bottom right one on the third variation. This one, I like that she has like these Celtic, almost, they look like earrings. But I don't know, like she's wearing kind of a crown, but I don't know. There's just something I didn't like about it. But this last one, where it's like this Celtic like warrior queen sitting on a throne, is awesome. Like this one looks like it's straight ripped out of like a Conan book, right? So we ended up going with this one. So here is the art, and here is the awesome card art. Next up, we have Apollousa, Bow of the Goddess, and we couldn't get anything when we just put in Apollousa, right? So we plugged in Hunter Goddess riding a bear, and we used images by John William Waterhouse. So he has kind of like these images of like medieval knights and like medieval goddesses, the Lady of the Lake and whatnot. So we trained it on one of those images, and we got this. I wasn't super happy with any of these, so we asked for another 4. I actually really liked the bottom right one. So we asked it for variations on that one, and we ended up rendering the bottom right one, but we asked for 2 variations. And we got these 2, which are both awesome looking. I didn't want to mess with them more than that. They don't quite look like Waterhouse's work, but they look awesome nonetheless. And here is the final image we ended up with, guys. It's awesome, right? Like it looks like very much like a modern, another take of like she's a hunter goddess, right? So here's the full art, and here is the art on the card. Last but not least, we have Yugi's God card, Slifer the Sky Dragon. And we tried to render this guy in like a Magic the Gathering type scenario, but I was not happy with any of these renderings. The top right, or the bottom right one, kind of looked like the head of Slifer, so we went ahead and rendered that one. And this one does kind of look like a Magic the Gathering version of Slifer. It's a little abstract, it's cool, there's like more dragons in the background, but I kind of like imagine those dragons to be like, oh, whenever you draw a card, he grows another head, and that's where he gets like the extra attack power, right? So this is the full art, and here is the art on the card. And that's all for our second round of AI generated Yu-Gi-Oh variants. If you liked the video, let me know. If you want to see some specific cards, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the goofy stuff that you ever wanted to do for a YouTuber. I'm going to have a little voice here tell you what to do.
Subscribe now.
This has been the Cardinal King. Out.